Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation on human-centered AI in education from values to practice. I'm Evrim Baran, professor and Helen LeBaron Hilton Chair in the School of Education at Iowa State University. I couldn't be there in person today, but please feel free to connect with me through my email or other channels. I'm happy to answer questions, share, and connect after the presentation. Today I'll talk about my work on educational technology and human-computer interaction and how I intersect these two disciplines, focusing on the complex problems in educational technology, specifically through my work over the last decade. I will also give a brief overview of my work on AI in education, especially in the way these two disciplines intersect within the human-centered AI in education field. A little bit about my background in EdTech and HCI. I think some milestones in my career played a huge role in the way I approached these two disciplines, and actually in the way I kind of blended two disciplines in my work. I have an undergraduate degree in educational technologies with a minor in industrial design at Middle East Technical University. And through my undergraduate degree at METU, I was able to develop a foundational understanding about instructional design, educational technologies, but also integrated a lot of my learning on industrial design as well into this practice, especially focusing on user interaction with tools. And back in the day, this is the beginning of 2000s, these concepts were really new, especially the HCI field or even instructional design. It wasn't a very common profession or practice back then. But I think my studies in METU and my work as an instructional designer in a company back then really helped me understand the importance of users and learners and stakeholders of a complex educational systems. And after my undergraduate and master's degree in METU, I started my PhD training in instructional technologies and human-computer interaction at Iowa State University. Now, again, continuing my previous work, I was able to now focus specifically on blending these two disciplines. And human-computer interaction is an interdisciplinary program at Iowa State University. I'm going to give a brief overview about that program, providing a unique perspective again on user-centered design and the principles of HCI within the educational technology field. After my PhD training, I had great opportunities to do research and teach in different countries, including Turkey, Canada, United States, Germany, which gave me great perspectives regarding the needs of different contexts, similarities, differences, as well as working within interdisciplinary research teams. And through my work in different countries, I was able to focus on developing technology solutions, including mobile learning, classroom analytics systems, interface design, online learning, extended reality, STEM education systems. Now, my recent work at Iowa State University focuses on human-centered AI in education. Again, this builds on this earlier foundation of my work regarding the integration of human-centered approaches into educational technology solutions. And I'll talk about how I kind of frame this research over the years of my work. So at Iowa State University, I teach and do research in two different programs. I am situated within the School of Education, and I teach within the programs of Learning Technologies minor. This is a minor program for our undergraduate students. In the School of Education, we have teacher preparation program for K-12 context. We also have graduate programs, online Masters of Education, MS and PhD in educational technology. We also have an instructional design certificate. So mostly I teach the courses on instructional design, evaluation, and AI within these programs in the School of Education. I also am an affiliated faculty member in the Human Computer Interaction program at Iowa State University. I did my co-major in that program. I came back as a faculty to that program. And this is an interdisciplinary graduate program. We teach within the PhD, Master's, and MHCI online program, as well as the HCI certificate. Now, there are a lot of intersections between these programs, especially in my research and teaching, right? So when I teach an instructional design course, it attracts students from both programs because students in HCI program come from diverse contexts, including user experience design, and industrial design, engineering, and students from education come from tech teaching backgrounds. So my courses are really great blends of these interdisciplinary, diverse student backgrounds and contexts, and I love teaching within these programs because I'm able to kind of bring these different perspectives into my teaching. A little bit more on our educational technology program at Iowa State University. Our goal is to prepare educators to become fluent in current and emerging technologies, to prepare them for the future workforce and the needs of this technology-based world of education. We have the Center for Technology and Learning and Teaching. You see some pictures from that center. This is really a state-of-art technology center that brings students, teachers, community members together with a common goal for enriching digital learning and learning with technologies. And specifically, I focus on human-centered design approaches within this space. I implement design thinking workshops or design thinking modules in my courses. We have a maker space as well. So using this physical space enriched with technologies in my research and teaching. A little bit more on the human computer interaction program. Again, this is an interdisciplinary program. It's one of the early HCI programs in the world, HCI graduate programs. It's now an established leader in this evolving field. And there are different focuses of this program, all the way from extended reality, really focusing on mixed, augmented, and virtual reality applications, to cross-disciplinary use, including exploring XR applications across diverse academic disciplines. There's a lot of work around developing new graphics and enhancing platform capabilities, as well as experimenting with cutting-edge hardware and software advancements. Really diverse applications here, from military to industry to education to manufacturing. So I am able to connect with faculty from different disciplines through this program. Now, how do I blend my research of EdTech and HCI? Well, I have a focus on user-centered design, right? Creating educational tools and systems that prioritize needs, behaviors, and experiences of learners. And kind of this evolves to learning experience design, crafting engaging, effective, meaningful educational journeys by integrating cognitive processes and pedagogical approaches. This is where I spend a lot of time, especially when I teach in instructional design. I use the learning experience design concepts. Interface design for education is another expertise of mine, developing intuitive and effective user interfaces tailored for diverse educational contexts. So using a lot of the interface design tools here. We do work on accessibility in EdTech as well at Iowa State University, developing learning analytics programs and extended reality programs as well. So I've had a chance and opportunities to explore a lot of these areas through my research, through the intersections of EdTech and HCI over the last couple decades. I'll give you some examples here. This is a project that I completed, funded through National Science Foundation. We developed a system called Teach Active. It's the machine-based learning classroom analytics system for educators. And on the Teach Active website, you'll see a number of publications that's talking about this framework and the system. But basically, this system is using classroom sensing technologies like sensors to gather data on classroom dynamics and student engagement and interaction patterns. We use machine learning algorithms to analyze this complex classroom data and put this as an output for the instructor to make sense of the classroom. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of integration of HCI concepts here. We did user tests through the different interface designs here to understand how different visualizations kind of help instructors make sense of this complex classroom data, and how we can use this system for faculty professional development, especially interpreting data and making decisions, acting on the classroom data. You see some types of data we collected to make sure that instructors use this data, use the analytics to make decisions regarding creating active learning classrooms. Now, we completed this project, and this was before 2023, right? Like when this whole Gen AI technologies came into the picture. But I think this was one of the pioneering work of all the like possibilities we can explore in these AI enhanced classroom analytics systems. And that's where one area of our work is focusing now, machine learning based analytics systems for educators. Another example of the intersections between HCI and EdTech is my work on new workforce development models. At Iowa State University, I'm one of the leaders of a project called Tech Thrive, which is thriving rural communities through emerging technologies. And the idea is here to provide these technology solutions into rural communities and co-designing solutions with them. Now, I want to emphasize here the idea of co-design. We would like to design systems with the people, not for the people. Now, a lot of these traditional design approaches really focusing on developing and deploying tools in these communities and considering those just end users, but our work is more like the human-centered perspective and more from the co-design perspective is really focusing on bringing users into the design processes. We have two different projects, again, funded through National Science Foundation. In the first one, we identified the needs of the rural communities, their aspirations, their dreams regarding the future workforce models, and then we designed these systems together with these communities. Now, the idea here was to engage the youth in these communities in STEM learning opportunities and integrating them into the design context. And the other idea is to integrate place-based models in considering the social, physical, economic, cultural, and technological infrastructure within these communities and integrating those again into our design processes. And you will see here, we are exploring some extended reality technologies. Actually, right now, we are developing an XR learning module for English language learners in these rural communities. Again, really some interesting research questions here regarding how these high-tech tools can be deployed and actually designed with the communities. So why do I emphasize human-centered AI for education? Now, if you think about the post-pandemic realities that we have been facing, all the way from access to equity issues to the existing cracks in our educational systems, right? They kind of became even more visible. And there has been a lot of policy shifts. We experienced emergency transition to remote teaching, and then this large deployment of technologies in the schools and a lot of failures actually of tech in classrooms. We face a lot of challenges regarding equity and access, and educators' role in this whole shift kind of evolved over the years. And as they grappled with the ethical and regulatory considerations with the tech entering classrooms and schools. So a lot of the problems that the issues that we are talking about regarding AI are not actually new. If you think about data privacy or surveillance or bias or algorithmic discrimination, over-automation, reduction of educator autonomy, or erosion of student agency and creativity are not really new problems. We face these problems all the way back to when technologies actually entered classrooms and educational contexts. But AI tends to amplify these existing challenges and introduces new ethical considerations. And a lot of my work is really focusing on these aspects as well. So I kind of critique and question these techno-dominant narratives and technocentric narratives in educational technology research, especially try to deviate from that and focus more on the human aspect of technology research. Now, if we look back again, the complex interplay between technology, society, and education, this is where human-centered AI in education can come and address some of the challenges here, right? Technology is never neutral. It shapes and is shaped by cultural, political, and economic forces. It can reflect dominant values, priorities, and power structures. I think as educators, especially in the AI space, it's our collective responsibility not to accept technology as it is, but constantly and continuously critique, question these forces that are shaping these technologies and narratives in education. Educators and learners are active mediators, so we interpret and repurpose tools within local pedagogical frameworks. So our backgrounds, communities influence how technologies are used and understood. That's why it's really important for HCI professionals, EdTech professionals, to really use these user and learner-centered approaches to see how these technologies are integrated into existing practices and how learners and educators interpret or repurpose these tools. Historical patterns repeat. Each wave of innovation sparks both utopian promises and skeptical critiques, as in the case of AI. Real impact emerges through adaptation, negotiation, and institutional change. And finally, educational change is a socio-technical process, not just technological. New tools interact with existing curricula, policies, classroom cultures, and technology adoption depends on social context, not just technical potential. Now, I wanted to give you this background because I think we need to set a good foundation for our work in AI and EdTech and HCI space first. That would actually be based on existing work. We have been doing a lot of work in these spaces over the last couple decades. These are not new. And when people talk about AI in education as a new concept, no, a lot of these issues have been explored and experimented with EdTech scholars, especially. And I think the literature, the foundations can help really understand some of these challenges as well. So we covered some of these old problems with new tools like AI. And I also wanted to highlight here some of the concerns that educators have regarding AI in education. And I think these concerns are valid. And I never disregard these concerns when some people come to me and say, is AI going to replace us? And there's a valid point there, right? And this is, again, not a new narrative, technology replacement myth, right? Over the years, we've had different technologies, different platforms, and people approach these platforms as if they were going to replace teachers or they were going to replace educators, all the way from teaching machines and to online learning. Maybe that did not replace teachers, but it replaced some of the tasks of teachers, or it maybe transformed some of the teaching tasks, or maybe changed the roles of teachers and institutions or learners. Now, I think when we approach AI, we need to understand how the shifts, the transformative potential of these tools, and our reactions to these transformative forces. Are we just going to sit and watch, or are we going to be active mediators, active agents in this process? A lot of the concerns again regarding AI, because these systems do not come without biases, because they are using data that may be biased in terms of race, gender, and many other forms. That's why we need to also have this critical and ethical perspective towards these tools, and again, actively participate in the decision-making processes of how these tools are designed and deployed and even evaluated in educational contexts. I really like this quote, which is from an article, The Case Against AI, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. It's the whole idea around politics of inevitability, a sense that the future is just more of the present, that there are no alternatives, and therefore nothing really be done. There is no discussion of underlying values, facts that don't fit the narrative are disregarded. So I think this kind of narrative devalues our agency, and then we as educators are excluded from the discussions on AI in education. And I think that's a kind of a dangerous narrative. So that's why we need to be, again, ethical, critical creators and consumers and users of these tools. So what do we need to move forward critically? First of all, we need to claim our agency. Rather than viewing AI's role in education as predetermined by some forces, thoughtful and informed decision making will shape and determine whether these technologies will reinforce traditional structures or promote greater learner agency and creativity. I'll now share a little bit about our work on human-centered AI in education and how we approach this work, again, building all these foundations. At Iowa State University, I have 3 graduate students working full-time with me on human-centered AI in education, and our focus is around these 3 core pillars. We focus on developing human-centered AI applications education. This is more for the development side, and a lot of our HCI work is there. We look at the literacy, AI literacy needed for teachers and educators, and we look at future workforce preparation models. What are the workforce needs of the future, especially for educators? And we analyze these models and patterns and try to address these with new curriculum and programs. We also approach AI and especially human-centered AI in education from a moral ecosystems perspective, because as we think about students, teachers, parents, administrators, policymakers, and industry, I think they all dynamically interact with each other, especially in the AI in education space. So when we actually propose a solution, we need to think about the involvement of all these actors in the solution space, especially learners who would be leveraging AI, right, for learning and efficiency, or teachers who would be innovators or sometimes skeptics of these technologies. Parents are important stakeholders because they are one of the end users of these tools, and admins and policymakers as well. Now, in our HCI, human-centered AI and education work, we address these different stakeholders' needs. We also look at the promises of AI, right? It's all not all negative. There are really great affordances of AI for education, all the way from supporting personalized learning to helping with administrative work or logistics, or at the educator supporting level, help with lesson planning, course design, early intervention, and so forth. Great promises, mostly at this point focusing on efficiency, but I think it's going to evolve over the time, focusing more on perhaps creating learning platforms for enriching creativity, critical thinking, and so forth. Again, the challenges I mentioned, we do a lot of work on these challenges, especially how educators perceive these challenges and address these challenges, especially the algorithmic discrimination, bias. We do research on teacher, student, and faculty perspectives, and we find that educators have great concerns regarding the reduction of autonomy with these tools, and especially over automation. They also have great concerns around erosion of student agency and creativity, relying too much, over dependence of AI, and so forth. So what do we need to move forward critically? What we find that AI's purpose should not just be increasing efficiency. Obviously, it should be providing access, but also enriching inquiry, helping with intellectual development and capacity empowerment. And we have this concept that we are exploring, which is called human in the loop, and we are thinking about integrating that into the education as educator in the loop, meaning human or educator being present at certain points in the system rather than the use of AI as a wholesale alternative to human decision making. So where can educators be in the loop and how can they help make decisions regarding students' learning and certain points in their learning. So at Iowa State University, over the last 2 years, we've been working on an initiative called Critical AI in Education Pathways. This is a multi-phase design-based research bringing together K-12 teachers, teacher educators, faculty, focusing on AI literacy, ethics, pedagogy, and design. And in our research, we work with teacher educators, focusing on their development of AI literacy. We work with pre-service teachers, developing curriculum and resources to prepare future teachers with the critical AI literacy competencies. And then we work with in-service teachers, bringing their perspectives into curriculum, developing cases regarding effective and ethical AI use in classrooms. So my goal in this process is to bring all these actors together in identifying solutions for learners. So we developed the Critical AI in Education Pathways online curriculum that builds on the foundations of critical AI literacy framework that we developed with 5 different modules, starting with foundational knowledge on AI, moving to ethics of AI, pedagogical integration, implementation and guidelines, and human-centered AI frameworks for education. And through our online course, educators go through a series of hands-on activities from imagining, case-based analysis, exploring different applications of AI in education, and a lot of application exercises here, as well as reflection and review. So this curriculum project, builds on the critical AI literacy framework. Again, we think that educators need to have an understanding of how AI systems work, including data, algorithms, outputs, recognizing AI's affordances and limitations. And then they need to have skills for analyzing ethical issues such as algorithmic bias, data privacy, surveillance, or transparency. In the pedagogical integration, we focus on how educators meaningfully integrate AI, use AI into their content, domains that they teach, and pedagogies. And for the implementation guidelines and policies module, we have educators work on institutional, district, national frameworks that govern AI use in education. There's a lot of work that's happening in that area, and educators should take active roles in crafting these policies and guidelines. And finally, we have a module on human-centered AI in education. This is where educators are exploring how they can be active decision makers and around human values, student flourishing, and professional judgment grounded in human-centered design principles. Now, this curriculum, again, is designed through a design-based research, and we do a lot of research with K-12 teachers and teacher educators and so forth, and we identified a lot of concerns and needs through our research. And here are some of the concerns and needs shared by the K-12 teachers we work with. Again, you see they have ethical and safety concerns. One interesting area, actually, K-12 teachers have huge concerns around mental health, and they think that they need more training and professional development. They need real-world implementation, example exposure. They need resources, guidelines, and policies around AI literacy. We also look at their practices, how they're currently using AI in their classrooms. We collect cases for AI integration using different tools. And actually, we found quite a great number of creative AI integration in classrooms, all the way from 3rd grade to high school, in the disciplines of English, math, or science. We are collecting these cases and building these cases into our curriculum. Here is one case from our case library that we have in our online curriculum. Here we have the case, the teacher, and we have our human-centered AI principles, and we ask educators to analyze each case using the human-centered AI principles that we share with them. We also do a lot of work to bring the community together. We did a co-discovery workshop at Iowa State University, inviting school districts, teachers from schools, our teacher educators, and other stakeholders across campus. We have a translational AI center at Iowa State University doing cutting edge AI technology development and research. We invited them and we invited libraries, Center for Learning and Teaching into this co-discovery space where participants came together, analyzed needs, and came up with solutions. It was a great co-discovery workshop. And here's our human-centered AI in education toolkit. We identify these principles as critical components of a human-centered AI application in educational context. These principles are built on research, on human-centered design, as well as AI deployment and design and evaluation. We have people first, safe and fair, learning first, clear and open, align with teaching, create with a boost, think deeper, and teacher growth. And we have guidelines under each category and principle that kind of guide teachers as they design, think about, and evaluate AI applications in classrooms. We also do work around ethics. We build ethic cards built on these human-centered AI and education principles. And we actually play games with the learners and users. They analyze different cases of AI in education, and they explore these cases using our principles for ethics, including human agency, again, safe and responsible use, critical thinking, and so forth. These ethics cards are encouraging the learners and educators develop these ethical competencies around AI use in classrooms. So all of these are part of our Curricular AI and Education Pathways initiative and design-based research and curriculum development work. In the spring semester, we are launching our Curricular AI and Education micro-credential course. This will be offered for all teachers, and they will be able to take the course and build a foundational AI literacy through these interactive and engaging activities. This will be offered through Iowa State University. We are also testing this curriculum in in-person workshops. You see a lot of examples here with my team testing these with pre-service teachers. See this testing of ethics cards where pre-service teachers explore different cases and scenarios in classrooms and identify solutions. So thank you so much for being here and listening. Please feel free to connect with me, and I'd like to wish you a great holiday season and Happy New Year.